Hello, America, and welcome to Happy Hour with Maestro Tim. I am said Maestro Tim, and today it's my great honor to have my BFF on with me. He's the music director of the Delaware Symphony. Please welcome the great David Amado. David, welcome.
Hi, Tim. What an introduction.
I know. So people who are just tuning in, David and I go like way back. So if you
like
hear us,
80s.
yeah. So if you hear us like insulting each other or trading barbs, it's mostly out of goodwill. But I just thought let people know that mostly it's probably well intentioned here. So anyhow, before we get into anything, what's important about this whole experience is the cocktail that you bring to the game. So you go first, David. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking, in honor of you, Tim. It's a drink called the Bitter Old Coot.
Awesome.
It's rye.
Okay.
A little bit of Drambuie.
Okay.
And a huge amount of Fernet Branca, which makes this taste extremely virtuous.
Okay. Whoa. Fernet Branca. What is that?
It's a Fernet. It's an Italian bitter.
Yeah.
That tastes kind of like toilet bowl cleaner.
Oh, great! Yeah,
it's extremely bitter and has a kind of minty menthol citrus overtone.
Nice,
but really loud overtone.
Nice. So what do you call it?
Easily overpower. And I think in a drink like this, and the reason that I made this drink, you can't see my beautiful clear ice in there. Maybe you can, is that you mix it in the glass.
Okay.
It's completely unpalatable until it's been diluted a fair amount, and then it's really good. I tend to like really bitter drinks, so because of my dark soul. But
well, you are a music director. I get it. I totally get it.
Bitter old coot.
Bitter old coot. Okay, before we toast each other, I made this for you because you've always been the more sophisticated of us. No, seriously, you were such a foodie, and I knew that you were going to bring something classy, even though it's called the Bitter Old Coot, to this cocktail fight. So the only way I can counter your class is with a little bit of my trash. So I got this for you. It's blue curacao, some vodka, lots of lemonade, and of course dry ice. So
that's spectacular,
isn't it? And I made it just for you, and we even have a cocktail cam. So during this conversation, Ed is just going to just peel away just so people can see how this cocktail is brewing. So cheers to you, David. Cheers to you. Yeah. Oh wow, that's really good. Yum.
This does make me feel virtuous. This drink. Somehow.
Good. I'm glad something does. So, lots to talk about. Let me start off with something kind of funny or strange. So, when everything comes back to normal, hopefully, probably by next season, do you have a strange and irrational fear about not being able to conduct, like forgetting how you do it? I've been sitting on my hands for almost a year now, and I'm thinking, good God, the idea of getting in front of an orchestra now scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, I think, that assumes that I ever felt like I knew how to conduct. So I think...
I'm glad you beat me to that, man.
One of the concerns I do have is that we go back to normal, and we sort of continue in a way that doesn't demonstrate that we've learned anything from all of this. So I hope when we go back, it's not what it was. I hope that I hope it's different. I don't know how, and I don't know what will be different, but I hope that we come away with some new ideas about what we should be doing. So much... In spite of the fact that we haven't been able to do what we do, so much has kind of happened.
Right.
And I think that all these things need to be folded into whatever we do next to create that new normal.
Right.
And so that's a fear that I have, is that we just kind of come back and are like, all right, back to the grind, and just kind of go loping down the road again.
Yep, another gig. Yep. I was thinking, I think if there was sort of any overarching theme of this conversation, it would be that each orchestra, I mean, there's so many similarities. Most orchestras play similar repertoire. We have similar collective bargaining agreements, similar operations, and we're facing the same problem. But culture is different, contexts are different. So tell us about both of your orchestras. I said that you were a director of the Delaware Symphony, but you also have another orchestra. So the broad question I want to start out with is, what's the difference between the two orchestras and how you've made decisions about the pandemic?
Yeah, it's interesting and complicated. I mean, so maybe I'll start with just sort of outlining a little bit what we do in Florida, which is just an orchestra like very few others. It's called the Atlantic Classical Orchestra. It's a chamber orchestra. What makes it special is that we play in 3 markets, separated probably at the extreme by maybe 75 or 80 miles. On the east coast of Florida between Vero and Palm Beach. Mm-hmm. And what that means is that we have these, like, orchestras really in so many ways reflect the communities in which they play, right? And I think if you have this sort of, and we're seasonal, we play January to April, right? That's when all people are there. So when you have an identity that's being pulled at by 3 separate communities, it ends up being really a challenge to focus on the things that you really feel institutionally need to be at the fore, because you have these 3 communities, all of which have a real, meaningful, powerful opinion and voice about the role of the orchestra in the community. So here we are trying to reflect these 3 different communities. It makes it difficult. From the standpoint of COVID in Florida, I think that things were actually maybe simpler than they were in Delaware, because since we don't own any of our venues there, we're really at the mercy of the decisions that the places we play make. And if the place we play says you can play, but you can't have any wind players, and I don't know, whatever other restrictions there be about the numbers of people in the hall, and you simply do the numbers and you say, we can't do this. We cannot have 35 string players on stage and 90 people in the audience and not go bankrupt. So the answer is we can't do it. So that becomes a kind of a simpler solution. And not to say that was the driving force with the decision that we made in Florida to cancel the orchestra season, but I think it was a big part of it, because once you start trying to chase down other venues and you're at their mercy and they can make decisions, I mean, they're thinking about being safe.
Sure.
Right? So that was Florida. And in Delaware, I think since we play in one venue, it's a little bit easier to kind of be that reflection of the community. And so we made the decision very early on to shuffle the season around, to play small stuff at the beginning of the year, which we've been doing, beginning of the season. So we've had all of our chamber stuff starting in October for socially distanced audience, socially distanced musicians. And then starting next month, January, we have our first orchestra concert, reduced orchestra, no audience. We're going to record it and then offer it to our subscribers as a video for a set period of time. So 2 different solutions.
Right. Our orchestra is kind of, ironically, a hybrid between the 2 that you lead. Talk a little bit more about the different, for your Florida orchestra, the different personalities behind the communities that you have to serve. Here, we perform in Cedar Rapids. Our theater, our main venue is in Cedar Rapids, but Iowa City is just like 25 minutes just south of the road here. And I think there's constant tension in the way we program and the way we operate to try and take the entire metro area into account, even though the personalities are so different.
So do you find that the programming challenges are ones that are presented that are at odds with one another from various communities?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think people in Iowa City, they love a lot more off the beaten track stuff. I mean, they really like new music and world music and sort of the gems that you don't get to perform very often, whereas Cedar Rapids is more of your meat and potatoes, give me my Beethoven, give me my Brahms sort of audience. And so finding that happy medium that you actually are catering to both personalities in your area.
Right. Well, it is a balance.
Sure.
I mean, it's always a balance, I think, regardless of the audience and regardless of how many audiences you have. I mean, I think one of the things that I've become increasingly fond of saying is that we don't charge enough for tickets to play what people want to hear.
Sorry, I'm getting parched. I can't hear you over the bubbling of my cocktail. Sorry. Continue. Pray. Yeah, continue.
You know, it's kind of it's a little bit of a snotty thing to say, and I don't really mean it, but I kind of do. I feel like, you know, we provide a service, but we're not a for-profit, so we have a charge to do things that go beyond just like serving up exactly what people want. And that's why, you know, that's where that comment comes from. Like, well, if tickets were $800 each, I will play Bolero every night. It's fun. but they're not. And so we have to agree with the community that there's this relationship, and that sometimes we play Bolero and sometimes we don't. Right. And that what we're always doing is providing, whether it's with your audiences or with my audience in Florida and Delaware, we're providing everyone with some kind of a broad spectrum of enrichment that, not everybody's going to like everything. I mean, my God, I don't like everything.
Sure.
Do you?
No. Actually, my badge of honor is all these years I have yet to have to conduct the Franck D minor symphony. True story. And you know what?
I've never either. I actually kind of like the piece.
Okay, good for you.
But would be fine not doing it.
It's got guest conductor written all over it. Yeah.
We did it once in Delaware, and guess what? It was a guest conductor.
Good for you, baby. I love it. Hey, I'm going to check the chat room to see how many of your fans are watching. See what's going on in there. Here we go. Diana Nolan. I forgot to tell you this. Diana Nolan, she's our local music critic. Her brother, Dennis Nolan, has been on your board and lives in Newark. Dennis Nolan.
Nolan. I wonder.
Nollen.
Is Noll.
Noll. You better know your board, baby. Yeah.
Now, there were some Nolans who lived in our house.
Really?
With us, before us.
Did you have to exercise the place?
This is not musical, but this is just completely crazy. And I don't know if I shared this with you. So we bought our house, which you've been to.
Right.
From Hunter Biden. And
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Joe Biden lives just up the road.
Because I was about to say, what's it like being Joe Biden's next door neighbor? And I was thought it was kind of a joke, but Jesus, really?
So we bought our from Hunter Biden, but this is the really, truly insane thing. So Doug Emhoff, who is Harris's husband, lived in my grandparents' house in L.A.
Get out! Wow. Feeling guilty for voting for Trump? Let's not go there. Yeah, no political jokes beyond that one. That's all.
I got to say, it is amazing to see the security here.
Oh, I'll bet.
Secret Service is everywhere.
Right.
So.
I can imagine that's really kind of crazy. So, when you're, let's talk about Delaware for a second. The pandemic notwithstanding, every orchestra has its unique challenges. So I kind of want to extract what's unique about situations that we're all facing that are the same. For example, Orchestra Iowa, one of our biggest challenges is we're equidistant. We're 5 hours from Chicago, 5 hours from Kansas City, St. Louis, Milwaukee, Minnesota. And that means personnel is a real issue. And that's something that keeps me awake and everybody in our organization awake every concert. And you're basically just a hop, skip, and a jump from Philadelphia. So I'm assuming that's not a problem of yours. But what is the problem that keeps you awake every night?
You know what they say about assuming, Tim. I mean,
really?
Yeah. I think it's funny that we have two very different routes to the same problem.
Really?
One of the personnel problems here is, I mean, it's certainly true. We're very close to Philadelphia. We're very close to Baltimore. Not very much further to DC or New York, and we draw our players from those regions, and we get amazing players, and there's a huge number of them. But there are also a huge number of orchestras here.
Yeah.
So we're always trying to avoid, when we plan our season, things like Pennsylvania Ballet, the Opera Company of Philadelphia, the orchestras in Harrisburg, Allentown, Reading, orchestras as far afield as Maryland, even in Virginia. Just trying to just steer clear, and we can't always do it, but we do our best, because these wonderful players who are members of Delaware Symphony are also members of these other orchestras, and that's it can become a problem, and they're funny, sort of like nodes of chaos, where like suddenly you think, oh, this week is clear, you program something, and then as it turns out, and this has happened like probably 3 or 4 times, not only do we discover that everyone has got a concert that week, all the orchestras, but that all of the symphonies, not the opera or ballet, but they're all playing the same thing.
Yeah, that's the weirdest thing.
Or one, or everyone's doing Brahms too. I'm like, how does this happen? It's like we're all on this kind of weird aesthetic treadmill, and we get to the same thing, and we're like, this is a great idea, and we all come to the same conclusion independently, and we all look around and we're like, I thought I was by myself here. Like, why are you here?
The exact same thing used to happen here, and I always thought that it was because many of the same musicians are also on other orchestras' artistic advisory committees. And so I changed the way in which we program, and every year we shift it up so that the advisory committee is completely different from one season to the next as we develop our programs. And that's helped a lot, because I remember for my first few years here, Des Moines and Quad City Symphony, I mean, 3/4 of our season was almost identical. And that's changed, but it still happens that, good God, you think you're the only one who's come up with this great idea. Nope, a lot of people have great ideas.
Festival.
Yeah. Well, I see that my warp core breach here is running out of steam here. So, Jeff, I'm going to call you up here. Time to replenish our drinks. And Jeff is going to come up here and talk to our audience a little bit about Giving Tuesday. So, you ready, Jeff? Okay, do not bore my audience. I mean, right. We warmed this up for you. So, come on in. I gotta go pour myself another drink.
All right. Hello there, everyone. All right, so as Tim said, I'm Jeff Collier. I am the CEO for Orchestra Iowa, and I am just so thrilled to have a few moments to talk to you. And I want to say first thank you to Tim and Maestro Amado for allowing me a few moments to speak with you, and also to say a huge thank you to all of you tuning in today. I know that we have a regular audience of listeners that tune in week after week and are constantly engaging and learning more and hearing more of Tim's antics and his stories, which we are just so grateful for your regular appearance. And for those of you who just tune in every now and then to see what's going on, we're thrilled to have you as well. So I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the important day that today is for nonprofit organizations around the country. As you may know, last week, of course, was a less frantic than normal Black Friday, and then Saturday we had Small Business Saturday, and then yesterday, hopefully you found some deals, and there's Tim's drink, upstaging me a little bit with the drink there. Hopefully you found some great deals on Cyber Monday yesterday, and today is Giving Tuesday. It's an opportunity for communities across the country to celebrate the organizations that do good in their community and the organizations that celebrate and contribute to a greater quality of life. There's no question that 2020 has been a challenging environment for everyone, and it's no different at Orchestra Iowa. With the pandemic, we've had cancellations from our events starting back in March and continuing to now, with potentially no end in sight as we go into the new year. In Cedar Rapids area, we received a double whammy with the DeRay show back in August. And at Orchestra Iowa, we sustained pretty substantial building damage. And as many of you have already heard, a loss of $50,000 to $60,000 worth of music in our music library. And while we adjust plans and our programs for the year and we constantly readjust and pivot, there's so much that's missing in our lives. Our musicians were missing hearing the beauty and the artistry of your music that you share with us time after time on stage. For our audiences, we miss seeing you at the Paramount Theater or at the Coralville Center for the Arts or here in the Paramount the Opus Concert Cafe, and we miss sharing in the joy that you're experiencing following concerts on stage. And to our supporters and our donors, we miss sitting down with you and visiting with you and learning more about why Orchestra Iowa is so deeply held in your hearts and in your souls. We know that we'll return soon and we'll be stronger and better than ever when we get back. But until then, we'll continue pivoting and we'll continue identifying new ways to remain connected to you, our Orchestra Iowa family. For today, I hope that you'll consider making a gift or a contribution to Orchestra Iowa in celebration of Giving Tuesday. I hope that you will consider us and remember us throughout the holiday season. You can go online and donate at orchestraiowa.org or use our Venmo account at Orchestra Iowa to make your contribution. I know many of you have already contributed, and we are so grateful for that support that continues day after day, year after year. Before I turn it back over to the maestros, I just want to say on behalf of the board, staff, and musicians of Orchestra Iowa, we wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And with that, maestro.
Thanks. You know, I'm not sure. David, can you actually hear my cocktail bubbling?
I can.
You can?
Yeah.
Isn't that awesome? Like double toil and trouble.
But I want to just make one very quick observation. I'm supposed to be talking after this stuff, but the upstaging of the cocktail, was correctly identified as upstaging. So yes. I recently learned why being upstaged is called being upstaged, and it's because stages are sloped, right?
Right.
From the back of the stage to the audience slopes downward, and if you're upstage, you're up further in altitude.
Oh.
And if you're upstaging someone, it means that you are physically further away from the audience than they are, forcing that person to turn their back to the audience.
Oh.
So that you were truly upstaging because that's what you were doing.
See, that's what
making someone else look bad.
See, that's how we roll in Iowa, you know? But you know what? Actually, as Jeff was talking about the derecho, it was something we have in common because I think the week before, a tree fell on your house.
Yeah, for the second time.
For the second time, yeah. I visited you the first time that happened. So do tell, what ended up happening?
Well, the first time was really, 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 really bad. First time we had to tear down, I would say, 2/3 of the house.
Yeah, that very room I think you're in, right?
Yep, this is new.
Yep.
And rebuild it. And this time the tree just took out our garage, leveled the garage, and took out the very back of the guest room where I think you stayed.
Yep.
So that's been reframed, and it's whatever. No one was hurt. It's a pain.
Well, let's go back to the chat room to see what's going on here.
And we got to tell people how we met, Tim.
Oh yeah. Actually, I'm going to give that to you soon. But actually, there's another guy I wish you could meet. His name is Denny Redmond, jazzer. He's a fabulous guy. Also loves new music, and he's, what did he say? Program more new music so the other orchestras won't duplicate programming. Better yet, commission more music. Now the thing is, he knows that's tongue in cheek because he knows that is like financial death to an orchestra. But
Wait, can I say something about jazz though?
Oh yeah, please. Yeah, I'm sure he'll want to know.
Things I've been doing in this COVID time is I've been listening to a lot more jazz.
Good for you.
And I've been thinking about jazz a lot and being upset with the fact that my conservatory education didn't talk at all about the way jazz works, because I think that what I've really realized is that jazz harmony it's really like a practicum. Like jazz harmony is there to help you understand what to play.
Right.
Classical harmony is there to help you decipher what's been written. Right. It's different.
Right.
So, and I gain I feel like I have a much better understanding of classical harmonic function by understanding the practicalities of the way jazz harmony works. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I feel like classical harmony is so based in, it's like triadic harmony. I mean, it's not, everything's a triad, but you know what I mean. And jazz harmony is like extended harmony. And I feel like I've been listening, like I heard Rite of Spring the other day on the radio, after having thought all this about jazz harmony and like trying stuff out on the piano. And instead of sounding like what it used to sound like to me, which is like bitonality, and
right.
It suddenly I could hear that these were like these extended like tonic sonorities.
Right.
And that to me was like completely eye-opening. You know, that's...
So I felt guilty when I was analyzing scores. You know, for the longest time, if I go back to scores that I worked on when you and I were going to school, I'm doing a harmonic analysis, and I see V over II, you know, in what key, blah, 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 blah. And I quickly finally got rid of that. And it's like, you know, A flat, you know, A flat major 7 over, you know, over D pedal, or so, you know, I when I do my harmonic analysis now, it is much more jazz oriented.
Right.
Because I can look at it and I can play it immediately rather than actually have to take out a pencil and try to do calculus.
It's just been very interesting to me to see the overlap of, especially early.
Keep going, baby.
Early 20th century classical music and what happened in the jazz world in mid-century. You know, this like one of the great examples that I sort of stumbled on by accident was also from the Rite of Spring. Do you know that spot, the 11/4 bar?
Yeah, the famous one. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah. The big thumpy. Yeah.
So what I realized is, have you ever like looked at that harmonically?
I can't say I ever did.
You should look at it.
I should. Yeah.
It's 2 diminished 7th chords. There are only 3 diminished 7th chords that exist, right? Because by the time you cycle through, right? So there are 2 of the 3. And they're overlapped. And you know what happens when you put 2 diminished 7th chords together? If you really think about this, you can kind of figure it out, but I had to play it. You get an octatonic scale.
Sure. Which, by the way, for people who aren't following, an octatonic is a scale alternating tones and semitones. Tone, semitone, tone, semitone.
And which is the basis of the next section. So when you hear an orchestra play that moment and all you hear is bass drum and timpani,
you're missing out.
You don't hear the octatonic outline of the 2 diminished 7th chords.
You're missing out.
Yeah. So this kind of stuff is, you know, I think, for me at least, has been connecting directly to what I've been learning about jazz, which has been cool.
David, you know, all joking aside, you have always been the deepest thinker of all of us. And I know, but I always admired that about you. But now it is time to tell everybody how we met. And I do not want you to hold anything back.
Oh, Tim, this was so funny. I think we were both pianists, and we both went to Aspen. I don't remember the year. I'm guessing it was probably 85.
That's about right, yeah.
And we were, I was underage. I think you were underage, too. We're the same age.
Yeah.
And so those days in Aspen, they didn't have dorms. This is the Aspen Music Festival in Colorado, and it's still a huge deal. And when we went and were underage, they would put all of the younger kids in hotels, kind of, you know, budget hotels that they had converted into underage dorms, and they would have older kids there kind of keeping an eye out. And Tim and I were roommates together with a third guy whose name I don't remember, but he was a singer.
He was a singer, yeah. That doesn't count.
Like a brick. Whenever he was. I wonder what he's doing.
Yeah.
But I was this, you know, I don't know, probably uptight, effete East Coaster, and here was Tim, you know, from Dawson Creek, British Columbia, and I just thought you were completely insufferable.
Yeah, I still am. Yeah.
But you know, we didn't really get along. I mean, we didn't.
Yeah, we tolerated each other. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was pretty minimal, I think. You studied with Zerko?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Yeah. You were a good pianist.
So are you.
I don't know about that, but You really, anyway. So I was reasonably happy after that. I mean, I remember the end of the summer. I think I got a picture of you. I have it someplace, buried in beer cans.
That's so unlike me. That is so unlike me. Don't believe him. That's right.
I remember we had it was a hotel room, so there's no fridge, there's none of that. But I remember I had pizza one night, and I hid my leftover pizza in my underwear drawer because I knew if I left it out, you would eat it. So I was glad when that summer was over. I did not want to see you anymore, and that was fine. And I think we went back to our various corners of the universe, and then, fast forward probably 5 years, 6 years. I'm sitting at IU in that annex, where we had class with Mr. Balkwell, waiting for day one of class.
Yep.
And I hear your laugh from down the hall, and I think,
no.
And in you walk, and I think, oh, for Christ's sake, how is this supposed to work? I thought there was just some sort of unfortunate blip in when I was a 11th grader or whatever it was. But there you were. And I don't know, I think I must have changed.
I think we both grew up, and I guess we became smarter. But that year that we shared in Indiana was one of the best years ever.
That was fun. Yeah, that was really fun. So that was IU, and I think I think from a musical standpoint, it had its strengths and it had its limits as well. But I think that I learned more from you and Adam.
Adam, by the way, to our audience, he's the director of the Denver Ballet and the Oskaloosa Symphony.
And yeah, so I learned more from you guys than I did from going to class.
Well, I think that's kind of like life, really. I mean, you learn from your peers.
Yeah.
And your bad habits, like drinking rye. I don't know where you've gotten, and also whatever bleach you put in that. What's it called again? The bitter stuff in your.
Fernet Branca. It's actually really, really good. And now that it's super diluted, it's very good. But it's really astringent. Like me.
Oh man. So getting back to the actual art of things. So how has this experiment been for you? First of all, how many does your theater seat? And talk about the challenges of social distancing in your theater, and going from chamber to reduced orchestrations for the concerts that you've been doing in Delaware. How's that been working for you?
Well, so we haven't had any orchestra concerts yet. Our theater seats, I guess, 1,100. It's a lovely little theater from the 1870s, Opera House. Over the course of the summer, as all of this stuff began to unfold, it seemed like every week was a kind of new set of scenarios and a new set of possibilities. I think I'm sure like you too, I probably went through, 5 or 6 iterations of what this season would look like.
Hold that thought. Denny Redmond just asked me offline, would I eat the pizza in the underwear? Yes, I would. Yes, I would. Okay. Continue. I know, exactly. Yeah.
So I came up with probably 5 or 6 iterations of the season. Programs that could be programs where you could keep people from kind of mingling too much. So you had strings and then winds, and then or programs that were just a smaller orchestra altogether, or programs that could, have address these kind of safety issues, or those all string programs, whatever it is. And in the end, as things began to develop, we really realized that we weren't going to be able to have any audience at all. That was just not going to be responsible. Yeah. And so we pursued this idea of taping the performances, videoing the performances, and then having them available to our patrons. So that's what we're going to be doing. Yeah. It's certainly not what we'd like to do, but come on, none of this is what we'd like to do. But I think, going back to what we talked about at the very beginning, this idea that when we come back to normal, whatever normal is, what will we have learned? And I think one of the things is I hope that we can have a broader footprint than just the people who can walk through the door.
Right.
that, and I hope that sticks, because that's really kind of awesome.
Right.
You know, I don't know about you, but I have a subscription to the Berlin Philharmonic video thing because it's the Berlin Philharmonic. You know, I mean, they're pretty good.
They do okay. Yeah, you know. Yeah.
And I really like to hear that. And so I pay a few bucks and I'm able to watch them on the magic of my screen, you know, whenever I want. And that's awesome. And I hope we can continue to do that sort of thing.
This is a great segue, because one of my favorite shows is Jerry Seinfeld doing comedians in cars having coffee. Mm-hmm. We can call this like, you know, conductors over Zoom drinking your face off. You know, it's something similar. So let's talk about either orchestras and or conductors, living or dead, that you admire, and why. I mean, what is it about the craft of this particular particular person? Because the thing is, when we were students, we would be studying other conductors all the time, and everybody was under the microscope. So we used to have this conversation all the time. And as we've gotten into the profession, I've kind of gotten away from that. So,
well, I got to start with the story.
Sure.
This is a great story. This is not mine, but that's a cousin of mine played in the New York Philharmonic for his whole career. The violinist, and he pretty much hated conductors.
Oh,
he
hated
them. And so after I guess a couple years after Leonard Bernstein had died, I asked him, what did you think of Leonard Bernstein? Because, you know, it's Leonard Bernstein, right? And this was his response. He said, now that he's dead, he's not so bad.
Oh, what a gent! Yeah.
So I don't know. You know, I think there's certainly obviously some amazing conductors working. One of the things that I'd like to do, much to the horror of my family when I'm in the car, listen to the radio, classical music, Sirius, you know, whatever channel, Symphony Hall, and of course, you know, identifying the piece is pretty easy on satellite because you can just look at what it says. But, you know, at our stage of the game, most of the stuff they play, you know what it is, right?
Right.
But identifying the orchestra and the conductor, the soloist, that's a different thing. So I like to do that. And I get it right a surprising amount of time. And so I was listening to William Tell overture with one of my kids. I was like, you're going to love this piece. You know, here's this was happening. This, and there, and oh, yeah, I know this. And it was such a good performance. Like, that piece can be just trashed.
Oh, yeah. Hold that thought, because there's a lot of music out there that musicians have learned to trash because they've been played either to death or just under rehearsed and played all the time. That would be one. Beethoven 5 would be another. A lot of Strauss waltzes would be just like hacked through. Yeah, I totally agree. So when you actually hear a great performance of that, it actually makes you.
It was superb, and I thought, who on earth is doing this? Like, who is it? Like, and I made the guess before the announcer came on, and it was Papano.
Oh,
and it was Papano, and I'm like, this is so superb. This is so tasteful. This is so like completely like thought out, but also had a sense of like spontaneity and freshness. Like, that's it. I was so happy to hear such a good, compelling performance. So he's great. Simon Rattle, of course, is great. Daniel Harding is terrific.
Oh, I love Daniel Harding. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it about Daniel that distinguishes himself?
I think there is first of all, I think he's very thoughtful. And I think things are very considered until the performance happens. And then I think he's able to just kind of have a degree of spontaneity that I find very appealing. I think he's really, really terrific. Dead guys, I think, of course, Amado was absolutely brilliant.
Gorgeous hands, too. I mean, just gorgeous to look at as well. Yeah.
And you know who I really love? And this is maybe a controversial one. Do you know Adam Fischer?
Don't. No.
This Ivan Fischer's brother.
Oh, really? Okay.
He had the Danish Radio Symphony for a long time, or as long as it existed. I don't know how long that was. Unbelievable musician. I mean, so crazy. Like the ideas are so extreme, but they're so compelling. It's hard to like. Would I do it? Maybe not. Like, for example, in Mozart G minor, first movement, 40th Symphony, first movement, right at the beginning of the development, there's that 12-tone row, with pauses in it, and he does it completely out of time.
Can you sing it for our audience, David?
No,
please?
I can't sing. All pleasure for you.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah,
it's so crazy.
Yeah.
But he does it so well. It's such original music making.
Yeah, that's hard.
And honest, not just like gimmicky. Oh, I'm gonna do something crazy because I can do something crazy.
Right.
His brother's great too. Yvonne Fisher's great too.
Right.
But more.
I like the way you say that, because that is so true. I mean, people can distort what's on the page to try and be original,
right.
and it usually
There's
doesn't
plenty
work.
of that too.
And there's a lot of that, but to actually come up with something that's fresh, but also just so well thought out, and just like I've never thought of it.
Well, it has to be generated by the score.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
I think that the difference with somebody like Adam Fisher and Daniel Harding compared to really, I would say, most of the conductors out there, that they start with the score. They look at what this is, they take into account performance practice, and they have a deep understanding of how the piece is put together. And from that understanding, you can go left or right.
Right.
And might be completely different, but they are based in that fundamental understanding, as opposed to a lot of people who kind of come in and just apply a veneer of originality on the, how it goes. Like our old teacher used to say, that Brian Balkwell, that's just how it goes.
That's just how it goes. Yes, an English guy. You couldn't understand a word he was saying. It was just all.
Yeah. And that was never satisfying to me. I'm like, I don't want to just know like what's tradition dealt us.
Right.
I mean, I do want to know that, but that's part of the puzzle, right? That's not the answer.
Right. Before I let you go, I'm going to check our chat room again to see if there's any questions. What's been going on? The funny thing too, I'm talking to the audience now. I don't know why, but my page doesn't refresh very quickly, so I often miss a lot of people's questions. So, I'm not seeing many questions, so I'm going to just refresh the page. So forgive me if I'm not getting to your questions. Just for some reason, I'm just not being able to scroll through questions at all. So. I'll tell you what. I'll give the listening audience an assignment for next episode. See, this needs a name, and I'm thinking, like Warp Core Breach meets Romulan Ale a la Hankowitz, and if you can actually translate that into another language like French or Spanish or like in Ukrainian Cyrillic, it'll just make it look classier. I think, just so it just says.
Already a cocktail called the Hanky Panky.
The Hanky Panky. Okay. Now, you try and translate that into French. Hunky punky, or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, so David, this nightmare called the pandemic is going to end. Next season is going to be close to normal, if not normal. I think with the vaccine. Knock wood. What are you most looking forward to?
Well, I'm looking forward to our musicians. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing them and making music. And I mean, repertoire-wise, I don't know. I'm just looking forward to being in a piece.
Yeah.
That's the thing that really is missing in all these Brady Bunch style composite.
Yeah.
Works. I mean, it's great. A group can get together in their living rooms and we can stitch together Appalachian Spring or whatever it is. But nothing is, it's not at all really like what we really do, which is to be together in a place doing this thing in real time. Mm-hmm. And so I look forward to that. I look forward to just not being, not having limits, that these limits.
Yeah,
I want to just be told, no, we can't play Janacek Sinfonietta again. That's a limit I understand. That's
right. Yeah.
But
here's the good news, because we sometimes think of moments as points rather than linear progressions. I had a great day last week. And that was because, first of all, we're still combating with what we're going to do for the rest of the season. We still don't know what's going to happen in the next month, 2 months. Are we actually going to be able to get a performance here in Iowa by the end of the traditional season? Still don't know. But I had a great day last week because we started planning next season.
Right.
And for the first time, it wasn't like, as my next door neighbor would say, a lot of sawdust, not a lot of construction. We've been spinning our wheels, which is just exhausting. And to actually have the first sort of green sprouts of actually thinking about something we can grab onto and actually really start preparing for. Because that's the other thing. Today, we're looking on our crystal ball what the pandemic's going to look like in a month from now or 2 months from now. And that's impossible to actually predict with any great accuracy. But the fact that next season there's something that you can actually start the craft again, which is starting right now. I found that it was such a tsunami of fresh air.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think one of the things that the pandemic has taken from us is the ability to plan.
Right.
I mean, it's constantly changing, and the sort of the landscape of our daily life changes with it, and so you can't make plans.
Right.
I mean, we also, I'm really fingers crossed that we're going to be able to be on stage in January and play this repertoire we're supposed to be playing, both like Pulcinella and Italian Symphony. Oh, great, but who knows?
Right.
So I agree. Thinking about a time when these restrictions are gone and we can actually plan and look forward to something. That's so, I mean, it's very basic to human nature, right? Having something to really look forward to that you can point to and think about and imagine, and that will come true. And that's been removed. And I think that's been surprisingly stressful. I mean, it's maybe a stupid thing to say. People know everybody's stressed.
Sure.
But that's an element of that's something that provides stress that I think we don't maybe give enough airtime to. Yeah. It's stressful to wonder whether you're going to get sick when you go to the grocery store, or the post office, or whatever. But this inability to really put a stake in the ground, I think, is also very, very stressful. Right.
One last question, and it comes from Denny Redmond again, Mr. Underwear Pizza. He wants to ask you, how much new music do you program, and how many commissions do you? You don't have a quota, but how often do you put that into your programmatic mix?
So, great question. If it were up to me, I would do it all the time. I love the idea of new music. I certainly don't love all new music. I also don't love all old music.
Yeah.
And there's some really.
Okay. You've opened that door. So tell me, what is the piece that would surprise most people that you don't care for? That professionally you just have to grin and bear it, walk on stage, and get her done.
Well, Tchaik 4.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
It's a piece I get it, and it's a great piece. But I've just don't need to do it again. I've just done it 2 times. That and the Waltzing Cat.
The Waltzing Leroy Anderson, everybody.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So we in Delaware, every year in Delaware, we give a prize to a living American composer and play one of their pieces. It's usually not a new work because the prize is not enough money to actually commission something new. But that's okay, because if somebody's living, we can choose something recent, and that's always fun.
Plus, you also know what you're buying. You know
right,
what you're getting.
True. There's a story in there. I've gotten into some trouble. I commissioned somebody in Delaware many years ago with somebody whose music I really like and I continue to like, and somebody with a really high-profile reputation who shall remain nameless. I commissioned him for a large work, 30-minute work for orchestra.
That's big.
To be paired with Carmina Burana. And, it was slow in coming. It didn't meet the deadlines, whatever. We expect this, right? But we got it eventually. And I remember I called him while I was trying to learn the piece quickly because we got it late. And I said, can you help me understand the way this music put together? The basic cell of the piece was a phrase that was built on expanding and contracting bar lines, right? So it would be like short measures, longer, shorter, longer. And so my question to him was, how does the phrase wind up? Like, where's the end? Like, I'm putting bricks down. Like, do I put the bricks on top of each other, or do I layer them over the seams of the layer? Because I just need to understand it, right? I'm just trying to build this thing. Just tell me how to build it. And he's like, I don't know. I'm like, Really? So that we ended up canceling it. I pulled it. We played it once through, and I'm like, this piece is not done. It had no dynamics. It had no articulation. It was just notes on the page. And I was like, this piece is just like not cooked. It needs to go back in the oven, and we're not going to serve our audience raw music. So we substituted something else for it. But yeah, so we do a piece of a living American composer. We've done really a fair number of commissions, several of which we've recorded, which has been fun. Same thing in Florida. We've done a bunch of new pieces, commissioned a bunch of new stuff, made one recording of new works.
By the way, I heard your recording of those guitar concertos. Awesome. Great work, by the way.
Wait, which one? The LA Guitar Quartet?
Yeah. The other
duo.
one. The duo.
The duo, yeah. Yeah, so that was new stuff, that's, there's, so I think it's extremely important to do. It's extremely important to balance it out with other stuff. So,
well, David, I'm going to wrap things up. I think you came up with a new name for Happy Hour. Ed, what do you think of this? Raw music. Raw music. I think you got to trademark that, baby. I think that's gold. Raw music. I think.
Of course you do, Tim.
David, you are a genius. I love you, brother. And thank you for saying yes, Tim. Man.
Thank you for this.
Stay online. We're going to sign out with our theme song, and I just want to say goodbye in person off camera. So with that, we'll see you next week. And by the way, next week is actually a brazen exhibit of nepotism as my cousin Carissa Kolopishak. You think spelling and pronouncing Hankowitz is hard? I do not hold a candle to my cousin, who is not only a gifted violinist, but also the executive director of Chamberfest in Ottawa, Canada, one of Canada's larger chamber festivals. So be catching up with her. So make sure you tune in then. And so again, thank you for David, and Ed, take us out. We'll see you next week. Cheers.